welcome to the nightcap. The nightcap we have going on. Me, I'm Coach Schumann. I'm here with Coach DePascal for our nightcap version of the Prospect Podcast, which means we got to speak a little bit like softer. You know what I mean, like late night radio. You know what I mean. Um, we have our part two with our special guest, Coach Quesenberry. We're excited to talk to him and really dive into some more of the nitty gritty details on things with respect to the speed development, development, and kind of his kind of programming from that standpoint. Those of you who may have missed round one, we really kind of dived into his overall philosophy, the things that he was doing, starting to do with the program, and kind of stuff he really learned, along the way over the years. But today we want to kind of get a little bit more into the weeds if we can, on some of the stuff. And he was so great to want to do it again. So,
Yeah.
so I think that's I think we're doing something right. Okay. we want to do a round two. So it's great having Coach Q back. Coach, welcome back to the podcast.
Appreciate it, guys. Glad to be back. And I took ownership for the first time. We had some of the typical technical difficulties in a school building. So I felt like we were just scratching the surface. So happy to come back.
Absolutely. And we had really started to dive in, on some of the things that we were doing. But I want to kind of just do like a quick history recap here. So if you could kind of go into, you don't have to go into like the history of they can watch part one if to
Right.
hear all that kind of stuff. But really like the building of your programming, and then we could kind of start to dive into the weeds of there. So how you really got to the point where your programming is, what your programming is today, and what kind of the big emphasis is, and then we can really start to dive into the weeds on that.
Right. So, like we talked about last time, I come from the background of coaching football first and foremost. And then I was always attracted or enjoyed the training aspect. And when I got out of high school coaching in 2015, I started more into the strength and conditioning world. And when I came back to Ravenwood in 2021, that's when I started to dive into the feed the cats philosophy. And that started to really change and mold and how we evolved to where we are today with a priority of speed, but it's still not the majority, right? It doesn't take, that much time. You're talking 2 days a week in season, up to 3 days a week off season. So it was but also with that, as we talked a little bit about in part one, it's still, everything ties into how that works with high-low days, with the central nervous system and recovery days. So even though I say it's a priority, not the majority, it still helps mold our philosophy and our programming planning based off of that philosophy.
No doubt about it. Talk about the CNS system and what the things that you're trying to really kind of make sure that you hone in on to get the level of performance that you want, that we don't drain the CNS system. Maybe you could give a little background on that too, just for some people who may not understand it the way that we do.
Right.
We start saying CNS and like people might be listening, say, "What the heck are these guys talking about?" So, but talk a little bit about that and the importance of it in the development and the training and performance.
Right. So if you think about the most taxing thing we can do to our central nervous system is maximal sprinting. So, that's on one end. And if you think of a spectrum, the opposite end would be doing, like simple bicep curls, your isolation type exercise. So then you have everything along that, curve, if you want to call it, or linear graph. You have your Olympic lifts, your high level plyometrics are going to be down near the sprinting as well. In that 60% range will be your deadlifts, your squats, your bench press even would fall down probably 30-40%. So we try to, when we program, you can have that upper body day following a high central nervous system day, obviously. So if we're gonna sprint, we're usually gonna do our heavier lower body lift on the same day, right? So we're already high, and then have a low day where it's more upper body focus. If it's things on the field, it's going to be things that aren't touching max velocity. Obviously, it can be, short change of direction, more skill based game speed stuff like Tony Villani puts out there that
Right.
we could put in on those days between. There'll some people run and those kind of things we don't and we can get into the conditioning part. Are you guys there? Oh, there
Yep.
you go.
Yep.
Yeah,
The,
you
the
all
conditioning
went
part. Yeah.
out on me there, so I don't know where I got cut off. If
You
you
said
could
the
hear me.
conditioning part, the conditioning,
What was that?
the conditioning part. You were saying that was the
Oh
last thing.
yeah, I was saying, some people will use tempo runs
Right.
or sub maximal work in between, and we've people want to argue this obviously on X and whatever, but our guys have no issues that we train the max speed, we train explosiveness, power, strength. We do no traditional conditioning drills at all. We let the sport train the sport, if you will, right? The way we practice, and again, back to like we talked in part one, that's the collaboration you have to have with the head coach, the
Right.
coordinators, the position coaches. That if it's a high day, it's a high day, it's a performance day, and then a low day is not, which we're able to track. They can't hide it because we wear the catapult vectors. So we get the GPS numbers so we know where we are. And we've not had, any conditioning issues in the last 3 years that we've run this type of program.
I wonder if so what from a metric standpoint for you are the most important things when constructing the frameworks of your program for each athlete? Like, what are the metrics that you need to have? The handful of metrics that you need to have on a fairly regular basis, and that enable you to back off, move forward, change exercise, change what you're doing a little bit from a development standpoint and training standpoint.
Sorry, I'm losing you again there.
Oh, I was saying, what are
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
the metrics that you use to really kind of construct your frameworks of your program?
In regards to the training with practice, which one, what were you talking?
Yeah. So with respect to, like, so you come off from a practice, what numbers do you need to have then from them, the weight room or the speed development aspect, and then what numbers are you looking at on a weekly basis? Let's say if you're doing speed all the way through, what are some of the
Yeah.
numbers that you're looking at to see, like, are we progressing or are we not?
Right. So obviously we track max speed, right? So we either
Okay.
do that via GPS peak velocity that they can hit on their GPS or catapult, or via fly tens. And then that's obviously an average velocity. So we get every guy's max speed. And then when we get to end season, a lot of people say don't go under 90% or try to touch at least 90% each week. We try to keep it at 95, right? So and then we've been, blessed or fortunate, or what we do is work and our guys get faster. So then we got to change that number. I gave
Right.
the example, our quarterback, we have the two quarterback system, two Division I quarterbacks for the last 2 years. And one of them, the BC commit, just in week 9, his PR peak velocity was 22.5. He hit 22.8. So that's the example of someone getting fat. And we got a lot of guys like that, especially the guys that are in, maybe the low 20s. They'll get up to 21, or maybe they'll go from 20.2 to 20.7. And then all we're looking at each week is, are they within that 95%? If they dip down to like 93, we do our research with them. It might have been they, had a late night or they weren't feeling well. because it's got to be, if they're not sick, they're either overtrained or under recovered, right?
Right.
And we talked a lot in part one that it's their part too. It's not only what we can only control what we control, but they control if they're getting good night's sleep, if they're eating well. But there's lots of stressors in these kids' lives, with school and academics. Could be girlfriend, could be
Go ahead.
family issues at home. So whatever it may be. So a lot of times when there's a dip in a number, you do a little investigating. And we do the same. We track our broad jumps. We use a jump mat or whatever type of jump metric you want to use. And it's the same type thing. You're
Right.
looking for them to maintain at minimum and improve where we can. As far as strength goes, we never really chase numbers. Our guys are strong. We want to be strong, but we use the VBT, which really helps auto regulate in season. So then it's more of, we're trying to reach that bar speed, and then guys that are feeling good are going to be able to push more weight at that speed. And days where they're not, well, the load will be a little bit lighter, but they're still working in the, parameters we give them.
Right. And so from a bar speed, so you're tracking the velocity that bar is moving relative to what the weight that they have. So like there's a certain number you're looking at. What is the number that you want to have them at for the velocity of the bar speed? And when can they move up, or
Right.
if I'm sure what number are you looking to hit?
Well, it just depends. It's just like if you do percentage base or West Side, if you have like max
Right.
effort dynamic days, obviously if it's a heavy day, we're going to get that thing in season. We try not to go too much under zero point 0.5 meters per second. We may let them go down to 0.4 or 3.5, especially some younger guys. Um, Again, it just depends where they are from a readiness standpoint. We may be in the 0.75 to 1.0, or we may put it down to 7.5 to 8.5 on the work sets. And then that's what their average is. If we're at 0.75 and they hit 0.78 and 0.72, well, they still average 0.75, right?
Right.
If they're 10 over, we have charts where they add 5 pounds or add 10 pounds, or if they're below it, take 5 or 10 off. So like I said, it pretty much auto regulates. But a lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of people that use VBT know this, some guys, when you're doing your build up sets or prep sets, they end up moving the heavier weight faster than they did on the build up sets, which is kind of crazy. So sometimes you have to give them that, or we'll say, okay, you got another set to try.
Right.
If you only have 2 or 3 work sets, well, then you don't have that many opportunities. But it seems to always work itself out. And the more you use it, they get dialed in with it.
Yeah, I find that it's amazing the numbers that you're able to see. Like, it's very clear. Like at certain weights, the speed starts to
Right.
to to drop, and that gives you a good indicator of depending on where you want it to be. Is there a number that you think that correlates then to speed on the field depending on the exercise? So like I don't know, like trap bar deadlift or things like that. Are there exercises that you look for numbers on that then you think are translating on the field from a speed standpoint?
Well, I don't know if it's a set number, but movement wise, like you're talking about, yes. I mean, the hex bars deadlift's always very common with speed and track
Right.
athletes, athletes in general, because it's a pretty easy one to coach. I think the box squat's another one. And all those lifts, you're always saying, hey, force in the ground, move it fast. And that goes back to the VBT. When we switch to that, I think really drives the intent, because our guys would move weight. You can tell them to move it fast, but when you have a number telling you if you're moving it fast or not, just like when we're out running, you do a sprint. Well, if you're not timing it, record, rank, and publishing it, the intent's not going to be the same. So I think that works the same in the weight room as far as that goes. As far as people get into if you squat 2 times your body weight or 2.5 times, I haven't really seen that matter as much.
Right.
I know Cody Hughes had a great presentation on VBT that he put out, and maybe it was someone at his school or someone he worked with. A lineman was a 4 or 5 star recruit by a lot of top SEC programs. and his raw bench was like 290 pounds, which is not a lot for a big lineman, right?
Right.
Prospect. But when you use the VBT and the weight, the speed he could move submaximal weight, it calculated out as if he was 300. I don't know, 35 or 65
Wow.
pound bencher, so he was coming out of his stance quick, he's shooting his hands fast. So he had that more explosive power that was measured by the VBT more than just because it is. You'll get those guys that are weight room warriors and they're not very good football players.
Right.
And then you'll have the guys that struggle in the weight room from a strength, but they're a dog on the field. Or
Right.
they're athletic and they can play. So it's, we really keep strength pretty general. I think that's what helps keep the athletes robust and healthy. And that's why I'm big on patterns. Make sure we're hinging, squatting, lunging. We're doing bilateral, unilateral. We push, pull, vertical, horizontal, and same thing with the bi and unilateral. That we just want them to be, moving different planes and just train them like athletes. Like they're not going to put a bench press on the 50-yard line and have a contest to decide the game, or a squat rack. And whenever they do that, then maybe we'll have a powerlifting mentality, but that hasn't
Right.
happened yet,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. The ability to move the bar combined with the speed that you can move your body as far as running or whatever position movement it is really is really that force you're generating, right? So that becomes the force. So guys that are able to move fast,
Right.
That generates more force than someone who can lift a lot but move slowly through the process. And obviously there's some meaning of the minds, like that becomes a maximal, fast and strong, right?
Right.
But there's
There, yeah.
there's an intersection there that makes it the best it could be for that you would like optimally, I guess. But
Right.
but along that plane, that's where you start to say, okay, this guy's a better, this is where an athlete who might not bench quite as much, but he's moving the bar fast, he's able to move his body fast, and I was generating X amount of force on the field. Is that track too? Is that I don't know if the GPS systems track any of that kind of stuff, or
Track what?
like force generated on the field at all? Like, so is that something that's able to be tracked at all?
Well, you have like your max acceleration, decelerations. Like Catapult
Okay.
has a player load that has,
Okay.
one of those big complicated formulas that pretty much takes like your distance at high speeds, or how many times you're those again, it'll calculate, takes one of those formulas of everything your physical exertion, if you will. And
Got
so
it.
we follow that too. Like high player load in practice, we get in the upper threes, low 400s. But then in a game, it can be anywhere from upper 600s to low 800s. And then so on a low day, obviously we want to try to keep those under 250, even 200. But then we also use but the total yardage can be deceiving too. You really need to look at speeds at certain, maybe a quarter a mile walk from the field house. They're walking or all
Right.
In all factors.
very taxing,
Right.
No,
So the
no.
player load and stuff would show more on that. Sorry.
No. I think
Like this
that's
past
cool.
game, we had a couple of receivers and DBs that get in the 12, 13,000 yard range, which is over 6 miles. So on a high practice, we try to keep them in the no more than the 6,000 yard range. Some may get to that 6,800, or some just at 59. And then on a low day, they're typically under 3,500 yards. And that's counting just everything.
Okay,
So
that makes
typically
sense.
Monday, Wednesday would be the days. Yeah, they get the higher. Tuesday's low, Thursday's a walkthrough. They play on Fridays.
That makes a ton of sense. It allows So okay, so all right, I think I have a good understanding of that. Um, when you go, like if you go into like out of the season and your what numbers of percentage improvement over the course of like I would say the off season, maybe the 9 month period of the off season, or eight to 9 month period of the off season. What is the numbers percentage wise that you're looking to improve in some of those statistical areas? Like I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
you're tracking, whatever you think is important.
Well, so again, that's going to vary. You have the rising sophomores, right? They're going to have the bigger ceiling because their baseline low. Just like in strength, you take a kid who's never bench pressed and they can do push ups, they can bench 95. You can get that kid benching 200 pounds pretty quick, right?
Right.
Whereas if the kid benches 275, it may take that same amount of time to get them to 300 or 305 as you could take the 95 pound to 200. So we got a guy running, 22 miles per hour. We're looking to make that 22.1, 22.2. And really, truth be told, they get to that speed. We emphasize their game speed more of how to control it. So we're working more on their brakes, how to brake plant separate and get into the game speed where the kid running 18, well, we need to build his max V, right? Before we worry about the submaximal running.
That,
So it, it's not some exact answer. It really depends on the kid. Typically, we really want all of our skill guys, like our goal is 9.5 feet. 9 feet, I think, still a solid for a high school skill guy. But we've got, I think last year we only had 3 guys over 10 feet. And this year, I think we're sitting at 9, maybe 10 that can jump like anywhere from 10 foot to 10.5. 10.5 is the best right now. And he's like a 5'7" receiver. It's crazy. I mean, he looks like a flying squirrel when he jumps. You know what I mean? And then like the bigger guys, we try to get them like ultimate goal, big guy jumping to 8.5. I'm a big guy, I'm talking 260 plus. So you're 285 pounder, but 8 foot, I feels like a solid jump for them. So we will look at things like that. We'll give them goals to hit, but it's like anything. You start out like a baseline, you get a pretest where they are, and then we just want to consistently try to move that number over a period of time. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And is there like so, you know, let's say your goal is to improve 10% over those 8 months, for example.
Yeah.
Is that a like a linear, like flat percentage that you're looking to hit, or are you building in like for yourself like an error area that as long as they stay on within this error percentage, they're on track, meaning 10% high, 10% low,
Yeah.
or something like that, like some sort of delta that standard deviation that allows you to keep them within range and on track.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at a group, you want more guys in the green, right?
Right.
Showing improvement, where it's 1%, 12%. You want things are working. If you got a bunch of guys in the red or they're losing it, it could be an individual issue. I think the first thing you go to is check attendance, right? Guys that are they missing training, or are they okay? They're with us, but then they're playing on a side travel basketball team and a 7v7, and then they're overworked. So there's always so many variables you got to consider with all these athletes. Like the
How
big
do you
things you
handle
talk about.
that? How
Do
do you
what?
handle that, for example? So that's I'm glad you brought that up. So like
Yeah,
the spring, which is always the crazy, like you probably have a spring ball. Then these kids are playing some form of 7-7 at some point. A lot, at least your skill guys
yeah,
are. They're going to camps. If you have a dual sport athlete, they're playing either a sport in the spring, or if they're a basketball player, they're playing AAU. How do you manage that part of the program? Because that has to be very, and you've done a beautiful job of this. Is really difficult because you're not always around them. How do you manage
right.
that?
So it's getting to know your kids, know who they are, know what they're doing. So for example, if we're in say June, and we want, if Monday's our max V day, it typically is. We played around where some people say Wednesday because they don't think kids rest on the weekend, but for whatever reason, we've had more success just doing it on Mondays. So if I know a kid goes to, we're here, they go to Clemson and they're at a camp all weekend and they're doing 40s, well, definitely on Sunday, but Saturday or Sunday, we will not sprint them on Monday. We'll have them, they'll go through the speed drills, and if they go their position coach, position work, but we would just won't max because they already did it, right? So we just, things like that, we'll hold them out. Or for kids in June doing travel basketball and he comes with us and he, plays 5 games in a day, then, we're going to let him get them position work. We'll tailor their lift. We'll definitely limit some of the lower body. And work around it because they're not going to be fresh. So it's like anything, you everything's a stressor, right? I was talking about this today with someone. In the off season, the weight room, we can push harder. We know we have an off day. They don't have practice. We're now in season. Practice and playing the game's a priority. So we need to program and adjust that volume to fit that, right? We still want to train at a high intensity all year. The only thing that changes is the volume, right? And how much we're doing. But we still want to hit it. We want to hit that speed, but we're trying to hit that one max speed, hit that speed once a week.
Yeah. So then the what if you have a kid that's do you ever have kids that like are not progressing because they like as far as their numbers, and you're okay with it because they're playing X sport, or they're getting their fill in other areas? Like, do you like they may not, I don't know if you know if I'm explaining it right, but like
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something like
I mean,
happens?
yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, we got so many. We got a lot. I mean, we encourage them to play multiple sports. I think high school, especially if they play at least 2, I think it's good for them. We just, if the team or sport they're playing does no training, we got to get them in at least twice a week, and we're going to program it again, like with their sport. They're not going to do exactly what we're doing. The track coaches work well with me with are doing track just to do track, which is great. Our fast guys obviously are in the events, but sometimes people are part of the track team, but they're never chosen for the event, or maybe they're a thrower, so we still want to make sure we got them in the weight room. And if they're a thrower, they were speed. If they're at track and they're doing the speed, then we want to make sure we're still getting lifts in, especially if they're a younger football player, so they don't go 2 months and then come back to us and they've lost their strength, and then you know how it is. And then when they start back, then they're getting sore, and it just becomes a mess. So,
Coach, just
we've kind of got that worked out though.
Good. That's important. For reference, like how many athletes are you talking total on the football team?
So we have right now 118 on our varsity roster. Well, really more than that, because we have 58 freshmen, and when the freshman season ended 4 or 5 weeks ago, they typically bump up. It could be anywhere from 5 to like a dozen. This year is actually a dozen. They take some of the more physically developed freshmen so they can start practicing.
Yeah.
They're not going to play, but they're getting that experience.
Listen, they're getting that practice work, but they're getting that scout team taste of like what this really is. Like, this is what it's going to be for you. Like next. Yeah, absolutely. But
they're paired more with like the JV type guys. They're not going to put that 14-year-old out there with an 18-year-old.
Yeah, they're not dialing it up like that. Like, there's no need for that, right? Because if anything, that'll leave a bad taste in their mouth. Like when it comes to that, I was just curious in terms of numbers, how like.
So 130 now with those extra 12.
Wow. Got it. I mean, that's amazing, right? And then look, we see it all the time. When you look at some of these guys in Texas, when they're talking about, they got 350 kids in the program, right? They got, a JV A, a JV B, a freshman A, a freshman B, right? And they're all playing up. I mean, look, when you can balance all of that, like, and make and keep it, everybody going in the same direction, I think that's one of the most part. I was just curious because for what it seems like the depth at which you guys go into like individual, right, when it comes to literally tweaking what it is, or programming this, or just knowing, hey man, I know you went to a tournament this weekend. I mean, we're not just talking like, hey, we're only doing this with the starting 22 here, right? Like, because we all know that like the bulk of a roster are guys that are like maybe not next level players, but they're going to be key factors in whether you win or lose games, right?
Yeah.
At that. So the bulk of like where the development really needs to happen, right, is that middle group. How do you handle that? Just that mass of number where, hey, we got to know and be on every single one of these guys that, hey, he played this, he did that, or hey, he's sore, right? Is it the technology and the data stuff that really aids in that? Is it just your ability with your other coaches around and how the staff really like buys into it? Like, what makes that whole thing work?
Yeah. So depending on time of year, with the size of our weight room, I have to do multiple groups. So I usually only have maybe 32 to 40 at a time. And then so we have to do waves.
That's my whole roster.
Yeah. So
come on, dude.
So like in the summer, for example, I'll have the bigs, your O-line, D-line, and then we put specialists with them because I can program them separate with it. That's a group. And
the
then we
fact
have
that there's a specialist group, Dave, like that's just phenomenal.
Oh yeah, we've
right?
got like 3-4 punters, 3-4 kickers.
It's just funny to me, right? Because a lot of the programs we talk to or work with, it's like, hey man, your quarterback, who's also your free safety, who's also your kicker, your punter, and your return. Like that's just kind of like the world that like we've always lived in, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we've never really had that like, hey man, we got 120 and like, what do we do with them, kind of thing.
Well,
so
we
it's
got
always,
like
it's just interesting to me. You're right. Like now, look, I have a guy that would love to only be the long snapper. You know what I mean? But it's like, buddy, you got to go play linebacker too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just always interesting how guys group things and make that almost like logistical aspect, especially when you have like I don't know how many you have on staff to help you with it, or if it's just you wearing that hat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's a juggling, to make it work and to, be like, have it work out in the positive manner. Like that's a lot.
Well, and that's the thing, like as strength coaches in general, we're all problem solvers first and foremost. And that goes down to, again, like you're talking numbers, then you got to talk facilities, what equipment you have, and then thinking of your flow. And that determine sometimes your exercise selection and your programming based on what you have access to or not. But what I was going to say was, do what?
100%. Like, I mean, look, I know, like we look at our program and we're like, hey, we'd love to do, plate pinch farmer walks around the weight room. But when you have, 15 regular ed kids in there after school, along with, 45 football players, like walking around the weight room with dumbbells or plates, like ain't exactly conducive to what we really want to do here. So like, let's find something else,
Yeah. Yeah. So in the summer, so we have the bigs and specialists, and then we do offensive skill, defensive skill, and then freshman is totally separate. So we just do waves. And what I was talking about in part one, we switched to Mondays and Wednesdays. This will be summertime, are outside days. So those are speed days, med ball throws. We may be doing, hurdle jumps or hops, those kind of things, hill sprints. And then they have their practice time Tuesday, Thursdays, weight room. And it would just be like rowing, like the bigs may come in at 7 a.m. to 7:55. We may go 55 minutes. And then my next group comes in right at 7:55 to 8:40, 8:50. Let me do the math, 55 minutes. And I'll literally do that 4 times. So it can be it'd be nice if we had, a huge field house with 25 racks, But back to your point of how can we individualize and get to know these kids? Well, when you get the smaller numbers, that helps. And then I do a lot of wellness checks with Google Forms. So we do a lot with QR code for data entry, and we'll put that stuff in there. We know where they are if they're playing their sport.
Right.
I mean, I'll ask them how many hours they slept, what they ate before they came. I'll tell them to track 3 days. How much protein do you get a day?
It's
Sometimes
amazing.
I put what's the best Rocky movie to see,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
when they tell me they've never seen Rocky, I just kick them out for a day. I'm like, you can't be here.
Yeah, Coach, it's really funny. It's
But-
funny, actually, it's crazy that you brought that up. We talked to CC Murray earlier in the day. We had her on the podcast, and she talked about like she does that, right? Like she gives them a form after practice and like, hey, fill this out, like how you feeling, or what, like you said, like,
Right, yeah.
what did you eat, how much stuff, like just that just extra knowledge, you know what I mean? Like, or that extra data that you can get. That's kind of, not something that comes off the GPS. It's literally,
Right.
how are you feeling, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that adds a whole different, and for the player, I think if you want to talk about buy-in, right now you're saying like, look, my coach cares a little bit more than everybody else when it comes to this. You know what I mean? Then they take it serious, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just going to say I slept 7 hours. You know what I mean? Like they actually buy into it. It's really a big piece of it. So it's so funny that you bring that up.
I wonder.
Yeah, we'll ask them, like even just in general, favorite movie or favorite song. And, I may make a new playlist and put a bunch of their favorite songs on it, or favorite dinner. And like you said, then you go up and you say that to one of the kids or a couple of the kids, and they're like, "Oh, well, first of all, they're like, he actually read it." Oh, yeah. But then you build that or what's their favorite sport team, or whatever it may be. Sometimes it's just something way off the wall that's not about football, and you do get to know these kids.
Yeah, obviously that's a huge part of it. That building the relationships, they trust more what
Right.
you're doing at that point.
Yeah.
It's are there so I'm curious. Well, I have two questions, but I'll start with the first one, which is an easy one probably for you. Are there some exercises or sprinting drills that you think that you say, hey, this has to be part of my staple on a regular basis? Are there a few things that you have is that has to be part of my staple in my program?
I mean, it's probably things like everyone does. I mean, we do all the A march, the A skips, where I think we're very intentional with it. A lot of the Brian Kula bounce fire series type stuff, and then teaching them, the different bounding, the straight leg bounds, the prime times. I try to mix in too, if not every time, every other time, where we make sure they're moving in different directions, forward, backwards, sideways, to be creative. And then a lot of times you have your standard speed type drills you want to hit. But then every now and then I like to throw a curveball at them just to, make sure they're not, because it's like any old school dynamic warm up, it gets methodical and they start to like cheat the movement.
Yep.
And that's what we don't want. We always want them very intentional. If we want them pushing in the ground, we want that dorsiflexion. We're always correcting that. One time though, just real off, I told them that they had to run like 20-yard build up, but they had to run with same arm, same leg. And I was just joking, but they did it so serious. It was the goofiest thing ever. But they literally try it with one of your athletes. It's really comical because they got to try to run right hand, right foot, left hand, left foot. And they just did it because it's almost like that's what they're trained to do, right? But
That's
that
funny.
kind of stuff. I've always tried to make sure if we do a lot of like bilateral pogos one day, the next one may be more single, because we're not going to do them all every time, especially if it's in season. We're trying to keep it at 10, 11 minutes. So I just want to make sure that we're still getting both. Or if I do the A march, A skip, I may do the switches on the second day, or the booms, as Tony calls them, single, double, triple booms. And so that kind of thing. And I just kind of pair them some more with the acceleration day and some with the max speed. But it's all the standard speed drills everyone does. I don't think there's like any one special one per se.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. Well, it's interesting because when we just happened to have Cece Murray on earlier today,
Yeah.
and she was really big into like certain things that were like kind of part of her staple, and then not to add some different things here and there. But yeah, I'm always curious. I'm a little more like you are, where I'll be doing certain things, and then the next time do slightly a variation to
Yeah.
keep a little, keeps them guessing. Then come back to something the next week that we might have already done,
Yeah.
and then there's certain things that I like to do, but it doesn't have to be all the time. So it's
Well, when they are speed drills, the way we look at it is some of them, it takes so many times to get a good quality A skip down, right? So
true.
they do
Yeah.
need that repetition, but then that falls on us as the coaches leading it. If you just say
Yes.
A skip, I mean, it's got to be coached, right? Just like a
Right.
proper hinge or anything. And with that number, it's you got to stay on them. And we put the better movers in the front, obviously. They're demonstrators. You're doing an intensive pogo, and those guys are bouncing, right? And
Right.
and you want those guys in the back to see that for when they go.
But I think it's also something that as coaches, like you got to buy into it and pay attention to it, right? Because this isn't the
Right.
time, look, you
Yeah.
go out and watch any first 10, 15 minutes of a practice when guys are warming up and,
Yep.
you got one guy leading it with a whistle and the rest of the guys are over either talking about what they're doing in practice or they're just
Yeah.
off doing what. I mean, look, it's just how it is. If you have that buy-in from your assistants, right, that are literally walking through the lines or
Yes.
you're on your group or look, even if you break it up, sometimes we do it positionally and we'll break up the lines
Yeah.
into position groups. Hey, coach, that's you, right? And if you set that tone from the beginning, now it's, hey man, this matters. This is a fact. Like this isn't our time, like where we're sitting here bullshitting about what we did, second block of the day, or who's
Yeah.
wearing something stupid or whatever it is. Like, no, this first time, like this warm up and getting ready to go is just as pivotal as it is if we were plugged into practice. I think the buy-in needs to be like from the staff and from the top down to kind of show that. Then it can be player-led eventually, right? Like
Well,
I
and
think that's
especially
the
like
key.
to your
Yeah.
point, even if it's just a general warm up, but if your philosophy or goal is to get faster, and that's what you're starting with and making again the priority, then yes, it has to be. And we don't have all 130 in on one side. We use both sides of the field.
Damn right.
We put varsity on one side, JV the other, and then when we're doing max B, we got the catapult guys on one line, then we got the lasers and timing gates set up for the non-catapult so they can hit theirs, and we have them going one direction, one coming the other. So then they have the recovery, and then they hit their second one going back, and then they go to their position groups. And with 130 guys, we can do a max V day in 18 minutes or less.
It's
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, that's on point. I mean, obviously that's shit. Like that's
What system
phenomenal.
do you use for your timing systems?
Do what?
For the timing system, the gates. What do you use there?
Yeah, so we have the Dasher Blue, and then we have the OVR Sprint. So we have both.
Okay. Yep.
So we added the OVR when they came out.
Yep.
So that allows us, we can set up 4 sets. And I mean, you can run 30 through quick.
Right.
So sometimes we don't set up all 4. We don't even need them because then we got the guys on the catapult. We're going to capture their peak velocity. And then the guys not, we're going to get the average on a fly 10.
And how many catapults, coach? How many catapults do you have?
We have 48. We had 50 with the Catapult 1, and then we just recently upgraded to the Vector Pro, and they come in, their case has 24 in a case, so we did 48. So we technically lost 2 there, but it's a lot better because I can do the live feed now. So in the game, I can be on the app, and I can track players live.
Right. So at halftime, you'll know, hey, like so-and-so is already, like, you know what I mean? Like he's already here. Like maybe we need to like take a look at that. Like, see,
and we can do it at practice. So that's kind of new. We just did this 2 weeks ago. So we've had two playoff games with it. So it's even something we can do an iPad at practice. And if I'm not at the practice, even leave with the athletic trainer and it could be right there. And we have our 8-10 guys that we red flag that we know we got to watch. There's a lot of them we know from doing it week after week that we're not worried about them. It's a couple of those receiver DBs, sometimes a running back, that they end up logging a lot of yards that we need to cut them off eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Dave. I mean,
No, I had one. I had one last question. But before I get to that, I had a brain fart there, but I was thinking something, I forgot it. But anyway, so I'll go to my one last question. What do you see as within the industry that might be changing for the future? I don't know. And what would you like to see happen, maybe technologically or within the issue that could eventually help you? I mean, could it be biomarkers? Could it be additional testing elements? I don't know. I'm putting it out to you because you see it every day. Like, what are some things that you don't have that you would like to have in your program?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's I still try to figure out what we have half the time.
It's an awesome problem to have, by the way, Coach. Like that's that's okay.
With technology, it's I'm like I think you said we're the same age.
Yep.
I still think it goes back. You still got to coach. It's still got to be about the movement. It does help. Like I said, the VBT helps drive intent. But that does us nothing if we're not coaching the movement, teaching these kids how to move well first and foremost. I mean, anything. Like I said, I feel like we use so much right now with the GPS, the lasers, the jump mats. I mean, even using their phones and QR code stuff. They have the more fancy, like the perch, like the camera systems, like the higher D1 and pro teams have, but those are about what, $2,000? It'd be a rack or whatever it is, or 1,200. I don't know. So I mean, there's so many things out there where they can do the videos and break down the sprinting mechanics. So I'm sure there's lots of things. I just have to learn how to use it. I like
Dave,
things that are simple.
Dave, we were talking about that, right? Like the video stuff to see, like, foot contact and all that kind of stuff to get out of that.
Is cool with that. So
I mean,
OVR with the video on it and the numbers that come out of it, like where you can video it at the same time that you're getting those numbers. I mean, I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's going to go to even greater lengths eventually. These kind of things, but it's cool that I could see where it's going. Like I could video in real time, like literally watching it. Like I have a trap bar that I use with my son, right? And he's 10 and he loves it because we have the OVR.
Yeah.
And he now because he's younger, we keep him at a certain number of reps until but he wants to. He's like crazy obsessed with like how fast he's moving the bar, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, he could see on the video, right? Yeah, you moved the bar faster this time, but you didn't finish the lift, right? You didn't come all the way up. So so he's learning the technique. That's one of the nice things about it. So we see the number, and then I could also say like, okay, I could see the rep too, like what the rep looked like, and I could say like, okay, that was a good rep. Your number was good. That was like you moved the bar like really fast there, but like you kind of half repped it. You know what I mean? So that's not exactly what we're looking for, right? So we need that speed with the full rep, and then then he starts to ask like when do we move up? Now, if he was older, I would move, we move up quicker, a little bit quicker on certain things, but But I want it to look a certain way. I want the rep to look a certain way, and I could show him it. You know what I mean? Like I say, this is what your rep looks like immediately. As soon as he comes down with the lift, the first thing we do, he looks, he sees his velocity, he sees what his max output is there, and he sees what the rep looks like, and he's starting to see, oh, okay. And now he said, like we first started, he was like, because we had started lifting with him, and I didn't have any measurement tools. Now it's like, yeah, cool. All right, it's the day to lift. He wants to now try to attach it to everything, and I'm like, well, I don't have the means to attach to this without you breaking the OVR, So
right.
But I like that part of it. You know what I mean? Especially with kids.
It gamifies their training. That's what they like.
Absolutely. And then it's almost like, now they start to see it. So, hey, how'd you feel in practice? Oh, I felt really good. Like, I think I'm starting to get faster. Okay. Well, maybe next week we'll see where you are from that standpoint, and time that with the OVR gates, and then have a good idea of where you are, where you're improving there too. And I think that's really interesting. Now I'm working one-on-one, but I have a U team that we're going to start doing the OVR stuff with, not lifting with them because I don't have young kids as much from that standpoint. They are doing training, but they're all at different places. But I can with the timing part, right? I can with the gates and the timing and start to do that. And, I'll have a couple of GPS systems that I could put on guys at different time periods and be able to track that. So I could at least start to do it because they're asking for that kind of stuff, and it's pretty cool. And that's why I asked about like what do you kind of see possibly in the future, because it's so interesting how this has moved. It's gone from guessing to knowing.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what tech's great for. I mean, to your point, I mean, it drives the intent. The kids get excited. I mean, as we all know, numbers don't lie. The weight room, you always had it based on weight. They always say like 200 pounds is 200 pounds, right?
Right.
But then now talking about athletic performance and training, we want how fast can you move 200 pounds, right? So I think that's huge. But like if you took it all way tomorrow, I think we could still get our team prepared. You can hear me, but you're spinning. Are you back?
Yep.
I got you. Yeah. So I was saying, like if it all went away tomorrow, I think we would still be able to get them, knowing what we know, even from having it. If we didn't have it, we could still get them very fast and explosive.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's been awesome having you back. I think we dived in some weeds at least. Got some. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we let you go?
No, I mean, I guess I'll see. You going to Chicago, or all of you, or just you? Who's going?
I'll be there.
Derek, definitely. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get out there, but Derek's definitely going to be there.
Coach, I did have one more thing. Coach, in regards to just overall injuries, right?
Yeah.
You've been there for a good amount of time. Have you seen injuries increase, decrease? Like, if you are, what type of injuries are you dealing with? Like, that's my whole thing. How involved do you get your athletic trainer in this process with you? I think that dynamic, look, I'm fortunate. Look, we've all been at programs where, you're either blessed with an amazing athletic trainer, or you have one that it's just like a constant battle of just every little bit thing, right? How involved is that person in this? Just because I think one of the things that a lot of like this type of programming and workouts and all that stuff has shown is that you keep guys healthy, right? Overall, that's when you're talking a smaller roster, like that one guy rolling an ankle or having a calf or something little. Even if they still have the ability to play, they're not playing at top, and that could affect the season on something, like astronomical. So I was just curious as to injuries wise, like what have you seen since you guys have kind of transitioned to this or have been doing this? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, so it's been minimal to none the last 3 years, which is, to your point, what we like. Obviously, soft tissue injuries have been gone. A lot of people correlate that to the max sprinting every week because your body's used to be hitting that top speed. So then in a game, you play at sub-maximal speed. Now you get the normal bumps and bruises, but
of course,
we went 13 games last year, 14 games because we lost semifinals. Had the same starters in game 14 as game 1. Right now, tomorrow night will be game 13. We still have the same starters. We got one kid out tomorrow. He got mono. That has nothing to do with training. So you get the spleen. And like my son, it happened to him last year. He actually played 2 games because we didn't know. He kept saying he's tired. I'm saying, well, go to bed earlier and get more. And then we found out on the bye week he had mono, so then he missed 1 game and then came back. So we'll have things like that, but you know how it is in football. Anything can happen. But to your point, if you got guys that are getting, they have knee issues, shoulder issues, back issues, that's usually a weight room problem, right? Or the knee or the hip could be from overtraining. If you've got guys pulling hamstrings in the preseason, early season, or their groin, that's usually a lack of preparedness, in my mind, and we do not have that. And the trainer, back to that, like, she's awesome, like, involved in, like, she'll watch us train some in communication. She likes what we're doing. Obviously, it makes her job easier because
hell yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Keeps those animals out of the training room, which is always the hangout spot for the high school kids. Right?
Well, because the big thing when I came back 5 years ago, and I came in the middle of the summer, which is a hard time to start, there were already so many guys with knee issues, shoulders. We're going to miss the first 2 games, 3 games, and that was all 100% from how they were training. And then you know how that is. You go in and change things, and so that's why it took a couple of years to develop that culture.
It does.
And then now the last 3 years where we are is just night and day.
It's amazing.
No doubt about it.
It's awesome.
Great stuff, Coach. Thanks so much for coming on and doing a part 2. And obviously you'll see Derek soon, but hopefully.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In Chicago, I'll be breaking down. It's basically how we maximize speed year round. So we'll go through to some of the things you asked of our winter, our spring. We have 2 phases, summer 2, and then where we are now in the playoffs, but regular season. And I'll break down our weekly schedule and the way we conquer all these things.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Coach, have a great night, and we'll see you real soon.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
That was great, dude.
No injuries, bro.
I mean, that was the main thing that that was the main thing that I started to notice for myself.
It's so key. Every year you hear coaches talk about, and look, you can look at it, right? Like, I'm saying, nobody's going to be 100% all year, but even that guy that now, look, he might be a 2-way guy and you can only play him one way this game. Like, that shit factors in, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then late in the season when you need guys to be like, hey, I need you at your best because you're playing against the best. And now you got a guy who's still dealing with a hamstring from week 5, or, this guy's still, something like a shoulder from whatever, like, dude, this stuff is all so pivotal when it comes down to, like, when you really look at the data, wins and losses and all that kind of stuff, man. Like, it's just a game changer. And this is keeping guys healthy. Like, it's crazy.
No, I think it's an important thing. And I notice how it's not as much of a thing with other coaches, and I guess maybe because I see it more at the youth level, but I'm sure it's still a thing in high school too. Where
how does it even work at the youth level, dude? Like, if somebody gets hurt, it's not like you have a trainer.
Well, they get hurt differently. Like, they're just out if they get hurt. But
do parents ask you as a coach?
A lot of times,
like, hey, I know you've been around this for a long time. Like, he did this. Like, what do you think? You know how quick parents are to be like, we got to go to the doctor, or you know what I'm saying? Like, some of that type of thing. I personally feel like, look, and I always do, like, if I was a head coach, right? Like, you have that meeting in August, right? That here's the expectation, like, chain of command, just like with playing time or anything else. Like, look, you go to your position coach, you go to the head coach. You got an injury, you go to your position coach, you go to the head coach, right? Like, you go to the trainer, right? You tell us about everything. will determine whether or not you need to go see the trainer or things like that. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I always thought that was a big, like a communication type thing, right? Like, you know, how many situations have you had where all of a sudden, like, you're like, all right, we're good to go. And then, like, you know, kid comes in the office the next day and he's like, hey, I went to the doctor. I'm out for 3 weeks. And you're like, dude, I didn't even know you got hurt, you know, like.
Right. That in high school, that absolutely was in a preseason.
Brutal.
That I always would have that in the preseason. We talk about that because that is like, hey, there's, you know, if you got to communicate if there's an injury, with the trainer or with me, and then you know, we have to know. That takes time, by the way. You have to know the difference between
hurt and injured.
Yeah, like you could be, and the thing, like in youth, you don't know, you know much less what they're doing on the outside. Actually, high school, you know a lot more what they're doing on the outside, so it's much more helpful because they're adults. They'll tell you, not adults, but you know what I mean. They're teenagers. They can communicate a little bit more. Whereas, you know, with a kid, you don't know if he's playing like 2 other sports, like that might get communicated with you a little bit. I listen. I still have kids that play a baseball game in the morning. Play football. We'll play a game in the morning and play football, a tackle football game after that.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't do that with a high school. They get hurt. So, you know, like a youth kid,
especially if they're worth, you know what I mean? Now, look, if they're at that whatever other game and they're sitting on the bench, like different ball game, you know what I'm saying? Like
for a player, that's
correct.
Now, that probably changes in youth as they start to go through puberty in that 12, 13, 14 time period where you probably like it's probably something that parents probably have to realize and then when they get to high school, obviously the coaches will know that. But parents have to realize like, whoa, my kid's hitting puberty, like he's more explosive, more physical, can do more, which also means there's more likelihood that if you overexert them, that they're going to get hurt, right? Because there's a direct like the more explosive you are, like we always say, like the more explosive and athletic and that's the more tightly wound you are, right? The more explosion off of the Achilles you have, the more ability to explode off of it, right?
Yeah,
and so there's pros and cons to all that stuff. The con to being super explosive is you're super tight. Usually, you really got to do a lot of things to keep your body in good shape. I don't mean shape like to run shape. I mean like shape like so you're not in pain, and you have to really do a lot of things there. And that is harder. Like the better the athlete, the harder that is a lot of times. You know what I mean? Like the less explosive the athlete, the less that's an issue. And that's why it's probably less of an issue, you know, where they could probably get away with playing a game. Like I can't do that with my kid anymore. He's
right. He used to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
I could play 15 games in a day, dude. Like literally, like he could go from and he loved at that time. He loved it. At 10 now, he's going to be 11 in 6 months. He's already like, you know, I got to play if I got to play 2 basketball games in a day, all right, I got to really take care of my body. You know what I mean? Because that's going to happen in basketball. You're going to play 2 games in a day sometimes.
100%.
So it's, so that part, the athlete starts to realize it, I think, as they get more physically mature, even if they're not in puberty, as they're starting to get closer to puberty. And then when they hit puberty, no doubt, like think about yourself when you hit puberty, all of a sudden you were way faster, way stronger, way more explosive, combine that with weightlifting. And then if you didn't take care of yourself, you probably got little like crazy weird injuries that you never got before. And then
foot stuff, right? Like I can remember having some foot issues. I can remember, your knees. What was it used to be called? What was that one thing that literally every human have? Schlager or whatever it was in your knee. Like, remember, guys, wearing, I used to wear bands under my knees just to like whatever. You just start growing so fast and all that other kind of stuff. Just kind of like after a while, you're like, wait, I never had to pay attention to this. Now all of a sudden this stuff is like, it matters, That's why I'm just in awe of how much people like kids have all this information now that like we didn't have growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't know any of this stuff. Like, it was just like, go out there and do your thing, dude. Like, it was just, wild.
No, the only thing, like, my solutions would be like the stretch or strengthen. Like that was my like really only solutions to things, because I didn't really know, we didn't definitely in my time period, that, although that was becoming a thing. I would say that when I was going through high school, starting to go through high school, that was where the first time I realized my father was really starting to evolve, because in 8th grade, we started doing plyometrics, and he started doing things, and I like,
right. And we always kind of did them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's your 15 years later, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I was 8th grade in 87. Okay. 80.
Yeah. And I was 8th grade, 2000. You know what I mean? So like by that point it was, that was kind of part of it. Right. Like, and but I'm just like the acts, like just the stuff that these guys can understand and know. I think it's just, if I were, like I said, if I was like a youth kid, like nowadays, like if I was in that middle schoolish heading to high school type, like I would probably be like so annoying to my parents about like, hey, I got to eat this, or hey, I need to sleep this, or just because I would, if it would help me in football or help me in a sport, I was doing it. It didn't matter what it was. You know what I mean? So like, I could just imagine how crazy I would have driven my parents to be like, hey, you got to do this, or I got to do that. You know what I mean? Based off of like, having the access to understand all that stuff now.
I think that no doubt. I also think there's like two significant things that came about. For one was before my time, and then one was really as I was like maybe middle school to high school time period. So the first was like when the strength coach took the first full-time guy in Nebraska. That guy was like what, 60s, I would say, 70s, maybe 70s. And they really introduced strength training, and Nebraska was dominant. It must have been 70s, because Osborne was a coach. And
everybody is that.
They changed the game, and that was kind of ushered in where programs were now having organized strength coaches and development. And then the other time was in the 80s. I don't know exactly when it started, but I just remember when I was in middle school reading the stuff on it, was there was a thing called Bigger, Faster, Stronger, which was that you might remember. It might have still been a thing when you were maybe coming up, but
that's what we used. Nebraska Power was a Husky, whatever. Like it was. That's what we posters all over the weight room and shit.
Right. So the Bigger, Faster, Stronger stuff was so big with the Olympic lifts and the plyometrics and the sprinting, and that was the first time I remember reading. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if you do this, you can actually jump higher. Like, and for me, it was always like,
remember the jump shoes?
So it was natural at that time.
Remember the jump shoes?
Yeah, I remember jump shoes.
Dude,
I remember I had them. And I had them.
Of course, I remember like doing that, and all of a sudden I was like, yo, I'm touching backboard. Like,
yeah, like those
whether that was just a mature, you know what I mean? Like whether that was just a,
well, it's stretched the Achilles, right? There was like some of the negatives on it was like if you went too fast, like you really had to do it the right way, and then you can get that benefit from it,
right? Because otherwise you would like pull a hamstring.
Yeah, because you
or a calf.
Yeah, because exactly. Because of the strain on it. But that was like, those were the first things. I mean, obviously it's evolved since then. Like now people will be like, do not do that. Do not wear strength.
Of course.
But that was really ahead of its time, and so was the BFS.
Hell yeah.
And it was really interesting because it changed to it, like, so it gave, I would say, like, for me at least, as a bigger athlete, I was, when I went from being a skinny, kid before puberty to all of a sudden lifting and just being big, like all of a sudden being big. Because of those programs, I was able to be a excellent sprinter at a big size. There wasn't a ton of guys. There was me, Sean Collins. There was a handful of guys that were big, and then you got into the next era, which was your era, where there's a lot more big guys that could actually. Greg Olson, not Greg Olson. Was Greg Olson? Was he the one that was a tight end? Olson. He was I remember watching
his podcast is great, by the way, right now, and everything he's doing with this Youth Inc. stuff. It's really awesome. It kind of is right in on where you're at because he just finished coaching his kids' 7th and 8th grade team, and it's really a lot of good shit. Like he literally just talked to Matt Liner on it, talking about his youth kid and all this stuff, and he's got a real, I think, different type of perspective. I don't think it's it's not that everybody gets a trophy, but it's not like the way his dad coached. You know what I mean? He's kind of right in the middle. But he kind of leans more towards his dad like that a little bit, because I think that's just obviously, it is what it is. But it's a real interesting perspective because, he's got, a 7th grader, an 8th grader. I think his daughter's in 8th grade too, right? So he's got they're right in that. And they're hey, we did all the travel baseball stuff, but football is the, what I mean? It's just really good perspective on all that stuff. I it's just kind of, obviously now with a boy on the way, I'm petrified of whatever when it comes to it, what is it going to be and all that kind of stuff. It's years down the road, but you already start thinking about how are we going to do this? Because it sure as hell can't be the way that we were coached that way. You know what I mean? It ain't like that anymore. The world just ain't like that. So, it's an interesting perspective to hear all that kind of stuff,
There's more angling, although Brick may not be as. Brick is probably pretty. Actually, Brick is probably hyper competitive too. But
yeah, look, I think anywhere for the most part, it's going to be like that. And who knows? You know what I'm saying? Or does it? You know what I mean? Is it something that all of a sudden, you don't even now you make moves based off of that?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I don't want to say that names because, but offline you would. But I feel like the hands-off approach, which we know of a really good coach that did that with his kid, whose kid's a good athlete, but it ended up being it kind of made it a tough road because there's so many people always maneuvering in the sports space now. So, and I don't know if you know who I'm talking about or not, but it makes it a guy who's a college coach. So it makes it tough to be able to just be hands off as you'd like to be and let your kid do it because somebody else is. First of all, it's very competitive to begin with, which changed a lot from when we were younger. Everybody's playing sports, which we've talked about 1,000 times. But that's one part of it. But the other part is a lot of them are pretty good, these kids, right? So it's not like they are, it's not like they're not good. So to an untrained or a coach who doesn't know anybody from anybody, if someone drops it in somebody's ear about this kid, well, they might end up looking in that direction before they look in this direction.
Correct.
And if they look in the first direction and that direction looks good, then they may not look in the other direction waiting for that other person to come in like we think about in the old days, have a hands-off approach, right? And there are times where even with me, I'm like, I just want to wait when I'm not coaching, obviously. Wait and see. Let's see how it plays out. Okay. And then you can have a discussion if it's playing out in a strange way. But if it's playing out, and even if it didn't start out the way that the direction you thought you hoped it would go, as long as it works out in the right direction for the kid, that's all that matters, right? So if he's like, hey, okay, it wasn't the exact direction I thought I was going to, but it's working out, right? And that's why I always say let it play out, like a good amount of it. Now, if there's abuse or obviously abuse, bullying, there's caveats on these things, right? You got to, as a parent, step in if those kind of because those are non-coach issues. Those are usually not, the coach may not know something's going on. You could bring that to their attention. But outside of that, performance-wise, yeah, it's really a different space from that standpoint. Like it's that's hard, especially with a boy. Like girls are more kumbaya in how they work together.
Yeah,
which is good. Which is good, right? Like,
right.
oh, we're cool. Like, yeah, we we, you know. I don't remember who talked about it with the girls. Maybe it was today or yesterday, but there's so many podcasts for doing them. I can't remember which one it was. But it was like, you know, the girls work together more, and that's part of it. And then, I know, it was the D3.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it was Katie talked about it. She had a great line too, right? It was like they battle to bond or bond to battle.
Yeah, something like, yes. And I think that but we're boys, it's different in that, man, like that a lot of the dads take sports really seriously because it's a boy, right? And they like,
right. And that's like my whole look. Like I had a girl, I was all good with it, right? Oh, don't you want a boy because you know you were there? I don't really care, dude. Like I didn't. Now I have a boy. Now it's like, all right, there's gonna be an expectation. Like here's what it is. But dude, just let it play out. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what he's gonna want to do. I don't know how he's gonna be. You know what I mean? Like what's gonna come of it? Like I'm not gonna overly push anything. I'm just not that person, you know.
I've seen people that didn't care about sports when their kids started them,
right? And all of a sudden,
mind blowing. Didn't care.
Now it's like like,
you know why? Because everybody out. Like, so if you, Derek, me and Derek, we both have kids at the same time. Let's say we both have kids at the same time, same age group, right? Derek let's say Derek really didn't care about sports that much, but kid wanted to go into some sport A. I was like super competitive, let's say, and my kid's also in sport A. We're on the same team, let's say. Your kid starts to be like, I want to be, you know, competitive like that. And you're like, oh, let it be, let it play out. And then what happens is a year or 2 or 3 goes by, like let's say you kind of stay out of the mix. And if there becomes some sort of separation, now your kid still loves sport, but is like looking at you like, hey, am I doing something wrong? Right? Like that's a weird. Obviously I've always been into sports, so it's not like that's not my story. But I've seen parents that really didn't care about sports that much. I'm telling you,
all of a sudden they do.
Oh, they care. Like they're like, why is my kid not on this team? And I'm like, wait a minute. This person 2 years ago literally didn't know anything and could care less. But obviously their kid likes sports, right? And their kid comes home and says, hey, I didn't make this team, and I thought I should have made this team, right?
Now you're like, whoa, what?
You're like, wait a minute, training. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it kind of gets to that, like, you know, so it's not just the people that are into it, it's the people that were like, oh, my kid's going to try it out. And then all of a sudden, they're like, wait a minute, I want to be good too. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be good.
And also, again, it's the whole sitting in the stands and Johnny's doing this. And if Johnny's doing that, then Billy's got to do that. And like now it's, hey, every mom you're sitting next to in the stands or dad you're sitting next to in the stands, now you got to keep up with the Joneses. Like that outlier of like, yeah, well, we don't do that. Like, all right. And the second your kid slips below, like somebody that's doing that, somebody's kid who's doing that, now it's like, all right, well, I guess we got to do that if we want to keep up with this whole, and that's where the rat race starts, dude. Crazy.
No, that it is. And and like I said, I've seen even in the area I have, like people that are in sports, like I'm obviously a little bit, I kind of understood what was going to happen right from the get-go. I really did. Like, because I was an outsider.
Even for you, Dave, like to hear you, like there's numerous times where you've been like, Derek, like this youth shit, I had no idea. Like,
no, I had no idea.
You're like, because we weren't, you know what I mean? Like,
it took me the first year, I was like, I did nothing. I did not. Well, first I was at RBR and I was doing like little like soccer stuff, which I was shocked at how much they did. But I was like, I didn't know what was really going on because I was still coaching. I I was there, but I didn't know. Like if he was crying, I was like, is he okay? Like, I didn't know. I didn't know any, like, I just know. And I would, and then I would talk to him after, and it was more like at that time, more like he didn't know what to do when he was 5 or whatever. But I was shocked at how much they were doing in soccer. Okay.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, like people we were friends with, like I went to a soccer game against their team, and I watched this kid look like Pele. He was 6. He was Derek, he was Pele. I mean, I was like, wait. I'm like, am I doing something, like, am I missing something?
Right. So, or like, hey, am I selling my kid short?
Yes. This kid was Pele, dude.
Here's the other thing, right? You've said this too. Like, look, there's monetary aspects to this. Like,
at first I was just like, am I like cheating my kid? Like you said, am I like just cheating my kid because I didn't do anything? Like my original philosophy, this is the truth. I would do some fun stuff with him, even when he was young, to catch a ball. Like he would want to catch a ball.
I remember that.
He was always into that anyway. That wasn't even like something that I ever had to ask him to do. He would dive and catch the ball a million times. Like honestly, his hands are probably good to this day because of that. Yes. At 3 years old, would always want to do that. Like that was him. I'd be sitting.
Dad, tackle me in the living room. I'm gonna try to get by you.
That was, that was. But when so my whole thing was like, yeah, we'll get to that. I don't want to start him too early,
Right.
And then my eyes were open. It was like seeing the light. I was like, huh? I'm like, because he was a good athlete.
This is what everybody's doing.
He was a good athlete naturally, but he wasn't like in soccer. Like I was like, oh my God. So this is like a thing. Like you actually like train your kids at soccer. So I asked the dad, I said, like, is he just that good? Like, is he just, did he walk out the door and was Pele? Like, I didn't know. You know what I mean? I had no idea.
And it's like, no, he plays with this team or he does this 6 times a week or whatever it is. And you're like, oh shit.
I was like, oh my God. Now at that time I was like, I don't want to do that level of it, but I'm like, maybe I should like, okay, start running some sprints with him here and there and start, like, maybe I should put him in flag football because other people are already playing flag. I had not done that. You know what I mean? I didn't do it yet. And I was like, you know what? Let's put him in. So we put him in, and then my eyes were opened again. I watched the flat, like I put him in, and I was like,
I mean, look, I even feel like, look, and this is just something like I've just noticed, like on my own. Like, look, like my daughter, she, Avery turned 2 at the end of July, right? Like, doesn't know sport, has absolutely whatever. Daddy, throw me the ball. Like, okay, she catches it. Oh, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know if she should be able to catch it that distance from this. You know what I mean? Hey, Daddy, do it again. Daddy, do it again. I'm like, all right. Like, we might like, and she's enjoying it. She's having fun. Like now when she stops, I'm not like, hey, get over there. Let's keep no, dude, like it's over. It's done with it, whatever. But you feel yourself kind of like eyes open a little bit. You're like, oh, okay. Maybe she might like this, like, I mean, one thing I've noticed, I don't know if it's like all whatever, but she just like likes to run, dude. Like gone. Like, Daddy, I'll just hit my hand and I'm going to go touch this and I'm going to come back and dude, she'd do it all day, every day. If I let her just run back and forth, I'm like, oh, all right. Maybe she wants to like, whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just, you start thinking that way, right? Just because of kind of what it is. And then it's like, you talk to other people and it's like, oh, well, other kids aren't doing that. Or other kids are doing like, oh, they're already in a soccer club on Saturday morning. I'm like, they're not even fucking 3, dude. Like,
like soccer shots. Do you have soccer shots by you?
That place, that thing.
They start them at like 1 at soccer shots.
And then I'm like, but then again, I look at it and I'm like, you know what? Like, I watch Dave and, Troy's doing basketball. He's doing flag. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's doing this. I said, and not all of this shit is free. You know what I'm saying? So like,
no.
At what point as a parent are you like, damn, I would really love to be able to have my kid do that, but like, we just can't afford it. So how do you feel then? Now, as a parent, you're like, I'm the biggest loser. I can't even give my kid the opportunities that, Jimmy has because he's going here and now he's getting better. And I know my kid could probably be the same because but we can't do that because we don't have the money. So it's like, dude, being a parent, like.
That's a good point. You know what was shocking too? So, and this, you're a coach, so you could probably do this. Like a lot of stuff that I did on my own happens. It really is better than some of the stuff I've sent.
Of course. I mean, look,
but here's the drawback. The drawback.
Not being arrogant about it though, like we're above average coaches, dude. Like when it comes to it, we know more than most. Not being an asshole or whatever.
Skills, right?
We could take our kids and look. We do whatever we're going to do with them on our own, and then we send them out to go do it with somebody else, and we can look at that and probably be like, I probably am doing that better. But they need to be coached by someone else.
That's exactly. So the problem is there gets to be a point, and I realize like even though there's certain things that I think I actually basketball, and we did the clinic together, like. Even though I was not a basketball, like I played intramurals and, been on some good teams from that standpoint in college, in between football season, but I was not like playing, I didn't play in high school. But I was able to teach him certain things there. But what I realized over time happening is that I had to sacrifice. Maybe he learned a little more with me for the fact that it wasn't my voice.
Correct.
Because you might end up getting annoyed over time.
Right. Well, I mean, think about it. Even like when we've done stuff, you're like, hey, you take him because he's going to listen when you do it. If I say it, it ain't going to really work as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I can remember that with my dad. Same shit. Like,
right.
Hey, I mean, look, my father was on staff when I was in high school. Right. And it was, hey, like, I'm not coaching my son because that's not how this is going to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the same response. You guys coach him and coach him the way he needs to be coached. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to coach and do whatever I got to do. Right. Like I was no different, but look, I don't care what it is, how you set it up. When you hear it from daddy, it's different because at the end of the day, you still got to go home and it's daddy and what hat is on. Right. And that used to be like a spot of contention. Like, you know what I mean? Like as I got older, where eventually it was like, look, it's just better for all of us if like, I don't coach you. So like, let's go and do that. You know what I mean? Like that's tough. And I don't want that to be a thing. You know what I mean?
You're going to have a balance back and forth on that, which
and Greg Olson talks about that. You know what I'm saying? Like he talked about that, like in terms of like coaching your own kid and it's really difficult. And like, you know what I mean? Like when to be a dad and when not to, and all that kind of stuff about wearing certain hats.
What sticks. So just thinking back, the catching the balls, because he liked to do it, like what your daughter's doing with you.
You're right.
And I was just like, all right, he would have me throw like literally for an hour while I was working. Like I would do something and he'd be sitting there
throw a ball.
And he'd be waiting for me like for a minute.
Like a dog playing fetch.
Then he'd fire it back to me. And then so basketball, literally, when I first taught him, because he was going to play rec, I first taught him to play basketball. The first thing I did, as far as dribbling wise, I asked Shane Stafford, who was a great basketball player, even though he played football in college, but he was like unbelievable basketball player. And I said, I don't. What should I do with him? Because he's been playing his rec league. Like, he told me what to do to get him ready, like layups, all that stuff. And he said, teach him how to dribble, but you cannot let him put his head down.
Absolute worst thing ever.
Right. So if he puts his head down, you stop him. He said, even if you mess up, it's okay to mess up. I don't care if you dribble slow.
Right.
You're going to dribble with your head up to start. And what's crazy is we obviously should work on dribbling way more than we do. Okay. And I send him to a place and he plays on teams and stuff. But amazingly, a few 3 or 4 years later, the fact that that's what we did the very first year
stuck with him.
Still sticking with him. He keeps his head up. I would say 95% of the time. Every kid messes up here and there, but like, whereas other kids on his team who are very good players,
that's the weakest part.
Really good players. Like, but I see the head go down, and then you know what, like if someone trapped them, they would have a problem, you know?
Yeah, because they didn't see the trap coming, or they didn't get rid of the ball. Now they can't get rid of the ball. You know what I mean? Like,
but
and
it's
that's
amazing
like
how that sticks, isn't
it's
it?
crazy what does and what doesn't, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like all of those little things that you're like, yeah, we'll just start with this, and it's like, boom, that's it. It's different, man. Like coaching, it's just how it is. It's so different. Every sport has their own little intricacies and you know what works, what doesn't work. Like, and then as you get older, it's like, all right, you got to get better at this because this is what you're going to be asked to do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
have you seen what Drew Brees broke down throwing a football?
It was amazing.
Okay, like literally broke it down. Did you see that video?
Great video.
And it's literally comes down to feet going in the right direction.
Yep.
Get the ball up and out. Just like Dan Marino said, what Dan Marino's father taught him, that video that everyone has seen, where they asked Dan Marino, who taught you how to throw a football? And he said, my father. And
well,
he said,
I just think even that in itself, Dave, like, you know what I mean? Like even Avery running, like I'm like, you know, and she doesn't understand or whatever, but the little things of like, hey, when you run, put your arms here or do that, you know what I mean? Just those little, if you just allow them to go out there and like just wing it and figure it out, like they're going to get it done because like that's innate in their own self. And if they don't, they're just not going to do it anymore. You know what I mean? So like at this age, like she's such a sponge when it comes to it, like, and so literal, like if I tell her it, she's going to do it. Right. And it's like, okay. And now it's like, oh, I'm going faster, daddy. And it's like, yeah. Or it's like, hey, when you jump and you land, you got to like bend your knees and like give it and then explode out of this. And no matter what you do, you always do this. She, okay. That like, I'm like, whoa, you know, but like foundational stuff that she'll take with her as she goes. And then when she gets around other kids that are just like, you know, because it's whatever, like, okay, now she'll, you know, that'll gain her confidence, all those kind of things. It's just, it's really crazy, like what sticks and what doesn't.
Yeah, it really is. Like they won't remember why they do it the right way or why. But it's very, very interesting on what sticks. And there are things that definitely I'm sure I taught that did not stick, like down the line, like definitely had to be repped or something. And yeah, you have to go back to when the body changes too. That happens. Like I was talking about running. Like Troy used to have great running form, like open stride, and then he gained a bunch of size and he gained pounds because of that. And like the form went away, and then the foot injury and all that stuff. And now, like almost a year later, he's now starting to come back around. And that's Coach talked about that before. Like it's a long-term process because now they're coming back around, and now he's starting to little by little improve back to the way he was. And this is a funny story. I'll let you go after this. Troy used to love, like you're like would just like to run, like just would run, right? And then when we were with St. Leo's, they always used to he ran cross country like the 1 year, and he would run really well in the race. And then the third year of doing it, he was already playing football, so he didn't really get to train. And they moved it up to a mile. I think this was 2 years ago. They moved it up to a mile, and he ran great. Almost no training, finished in the top 10, spitting all over himself, finishing in, and he got done with that race.
It was undone.
First time he said something to me, it sticks with me to this day. Never again.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was like, you know what? If he's not a football player, like this kid could be a great middle distance runner. You know what I mean?
Brother.
Right. Like
it's in the blood.
He had that like knack for it, you know? And he without training, finished in the top 10, like second in his grade to a kid who's really a great runner, who's insanely, who's beating everybody. And I was like, wow. And the first thing he said, like he didn't say, I was like, wow, like, that's amazing. I can't believe you did that.
And he's like, get me out of here.
Never again. again. He didn't even want to look at his. He placated
Let's
us.
go.
And he wanted to go home. Like, he placated us so he could go see what the time was and all that stuff. But he didn't care what his time was. He didn't care that he ran great. He could care less. He was just like, no, thank you. I have found a thing that I do not want to do anymore. I thought it was
honestly, I think that's the way to go about it too. Expose them to everything and what they want. They go, you know what I mean? Like, hey, we do everything like once. Let's try it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because you never really know.
You know
what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not about to like force them into what was good for me. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he is a baseball kid because he loves baseball. Like, just because I wasn't doesn't mean that that's not the thing. Now, look, will I try to steer him to what I think it'll be a better opportunity for him in the future? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I know he's gonna love basketball, but at the same time, it's like, buddy, basketball is really fucking tough, dude. As a 5'8" white dude who's probably not gonna be able to jump very well. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, here's what you're working with, bud. Like, you know, like I get it, but who knows?
You don't know though. You don't know. You don't know what they get. Like when I look at Troy, like there's a lot of things he got from me. There's a lot of things that are not me that he has. Like there's like I became a student of the game of football because I was smart down the line, but I was really I was a running back, me first guy all the way through. You know, get me the ball, like kind of guy, right? Like now defensively, I wasn't like that. I love defense. Like I was a team guy on defense, you know, like wherever you need me. I didn't care if I played DN, safety, linebacker, whatever you wanted me to do. I just wanted to hit people. I'm sure you were like that too.
Oh,
but,
God, yeah.
But so I didn't care what the position was. But offensively, I was like, you know, there's no way, even though they had me at quarterback when I was young, like I wasn't the right mindset for a quarterback.
No, I hated it.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was handing it off.
But I also wasn't the receiver that was like, I need the fucking ball.
No, I wasn't
play.
like that either,
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't
But
really
I was
give a
thinking,
shit.
I was always thinking, like, I'm handing it off. Why, you know, like
I should just be taking this.
Yeah, like we'd be better off if I just ran it. You know, like why?
See, like my whole thing was like, hey, dude, if they don't want to throw me the ball, that's like their loss. I know I could go have 10 catches for 188 and be totally cool. But like, hey, you don't want to do that? Okay, I'm perfectly fine out here, just like knocking the shit out of this corner for the entire game. And then when I go to defense, like I'll just beat the shit out of everybody over there too, dude. Like I'll just tackle everybody there too. But like even basketball, man, like I didn't need to have 42 points. Like I felt awesome if like I had 12 assists and 5 steals or whatever. Like I love watching other dudes do good shit, like based off of like, yo, you made a nasty pass, or yo, you stole that. And then like, that's why we had the opportunity to go score. Like, that's why I thought I was always so much more of a team sport guy, right? Even though I was so hard on myself and wanted to be the best, like I loved the fact that I could help my teammates be that. Like, and that I think is something that's like so different with like the mindset of now. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, take that double team so this guy can make the tackle. Well, fuck that, coach. I want to make the tackle. It's like, yeah, but that's not your job. That's what's, you know what I mean? Like, that took me a really long time as a coach to like get that part of it, to be like, oh, there's some guys that are like fucking me guys, and that's all they care about is like,
it can't be changed.
No, look, a zebra covered in mud still has stripes, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying?
In the old days, you could kind of talk. Like my coaches could talk to me and be like, hey, you know, we know you're super competitive, but we need you to do this. Like, you know, and then there was a time when they would listen. Like, now I happen to, you know, I went to if I went to a big school, it'd be probably different where, you know, I went to small schools. So,
but think about college, right? Like college, it was like that. Like college was also like, look, high school, it was like, hey man, like you're the guy. And then you get to college and it's like, hey man, I need you to be this. You don't have to be that guy. And it's like, fuck man, I kind of like being that guy, but I also like to win. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd rather us win games than me have whatever, you know, like there are some guys that would rather lose every game and have 5 touchdowns a game. Like I could give 2 shits about that. Like, let's just win, dude.
My senior year, something like that happened where the the Mike linebacker, who was really good, got hurt in camp, and then they moved me to Mike. Okay, and I had 1 million tackles in like our last 2 scrimmages, and then he came back before the first game, and they moved me back to they moved me from Will to Sam, and they said, like, we need you to start here. Okay, so I started saying I hadn't even practiced Sam in all camp. Started there. 5 games in goes by. The Mike gets hurt again. They go,
you gotta go back to Mike.
They're like, we want you to go back to Mike. And I said, well,
Like, what the fuck?
I said, I would listen. I go to Mike. I'll make 9 million tackles. Great. I think if we have 2 to 3 guys, instead of moving 1 person, 2 people, let's only move. I said it to Hargreaves. I said, why don't we just move? I stay in my position. The other guy stays in his position. And we just move 1 guy to Mike who can do the job of Mike. Instead of moving 2 pieces, we move 1, right? Meaning 1 piece moves. Instead of 2 new guys, you only have 1 new guy.
You think that's logical,
like,
but
what's that?
I said you think that would be like logical how people.
Well, I thought, yeah, I said, why would we want to have 2 guys learning?
Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
1, right? So I could have went to Mike and probably would have got, a bunch of tackles this week, but I would have had to relearn it again. So Hargreaves talked to the defensive coordinator, the point I brought up, and they actually agreed with me. They said, actually, that was a really good point. So
you're like, well, that never happens, but
yes. Well, I just said, listen, I'll go to it if you really want me to go to
right.
it.
But to me, I'm telling you, this is the smartest
moving
move.
2 guys.
The smarter move is to
1.
do this. Yeah.
Right, now you have 2 new starters, meaning, they were thinking of like, well, Dave's already started. We move over to Mike. It's like, yeah, but I still have to practice that position. Not that I wouldn't be fine at it, but like now you have 2 positions that are weaker versus 1, right? And
yes.
And I always thought Mike, the way that we played it back then, it was really like A to A, C to C. You know what I mean?
Yeah, buddy.
So,
like you're a tackle to tackle player.
Like, I mean, if you were a tough guy, you could make a lot of plays in the box and make 1 million tackles.
You don't have to be very athletic to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Be a freak. The guy who we had there happens to be ended up being one of the best linebackers for was really good and was really athletic, which made him very good. But you didn't need it. You didn't need
that. Right.
It wasn't necessary in the 4-3 at that time. So, because we were the Sam and the Will were knocking everything back inside. You didn't have to go
for him to go make the tackle. You just have to be a sure tackler.
He was just basically moving A to B most of the time, and we were knocking it back inside and then falling in. I made a lot of tackles from that position, but it was more because I was being an athlete, not because I was meant to make any tackles really. So
absolutely.
So, but that was my thought process, and that's you're right. But college, you have that. You have other guys that are good athletes that could go into those spots and fill roles and do a good job because they all are great athletes. They're all great athletes.
And I think you mature a little bit and you start to understand, like, hey, I'm not the fucking best guy on this team. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, I'm good, but I ain't that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a level of maturity helps with that. You know what I mean? Like, dude, also it just comes down to winning. Like, I want to win. I don't want to fucking lose games, dude. Like, that's miserable. I don't care. Like, whatever we got to do, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, coach,
winning in college is hard.
Fuck, dude. At any level, man, it is really, really
hard. College is really hard because, well, let's put it like this. There's some years. I mean, I guess there were some years that it wasn't that hard, and some years it was. But it's everybody's smart. You know what I mean? Yes. In college, everybody watches film. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody and that's what makes winning harder in college. Now, high school, you could probably, if you're really smart and you're a really good coach and you have good players, you probably do have an advantage because you will face people with not as good players or a guy who's not as good a coach. That's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen.
Right.
So,
whereas in college, you're like, dude, this guy's literally getting paid to coach these kids too. You know what I'm saying? And you don't play college unless you're good. Plain and simple. Like, it is what it is. Some level of good.
Some level of good, right? Some level of good. Like, even the coaches, some level of good. They did something really good. They might have been capped, and they were really position coaches and not coordinators or whatever. Or
Right. We've all dealt with that.
But as far as their whatever, they were successful at a level, and if they were unsuccessful, it was basically because it was a level they weren't able to handle. But
correct.
But
and that shows right away. You know what I mean? Like you'll realize that real quick. You know.
No, you do. It's. I mean, that
you get exposed. You get exposed.
Sports does a really good job of that, and well, football does the best job of that. Like I guess in baseball or even basketball, like if you have really good players,
it can cover up a lot. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You can. I mean, basketball. Like if you have a great player, can mask it. The guy who's so interesting to me is Danny Hurley.
Oh, dude, he's great. His new book. Did you see his new book?
No, I got to read it.
I can't wait to dive into it, dude.
He's very interesting because of all the things he's gone through.
He's the fucking man, dude.
And he's
so old school and intense like that.
New school and old school. He's both.
That's what makes him so great.
He's both. Like he's got all these mega stars on his team, and
he don't care.
He don't care. He's basically like, I'll just go get another.
He talked about it in his presser. He was talking about one of his players. He's like, look, he's young right now, so I'm going to ride the shit out of him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all over him. I know he's a great player, but I'm all over his shit, right? And he probably doesn't like me right now, and he talked about how that relationship will grow just like a previous player, like all that kind of stuff. I'm like, dude, this is sick. You know what I mean? Like, this is awesome.
I wish more parents, I mean, maybe they do watch it and just look at it as like, oh, this guy's a high-level coach. This doesn't apply to me. But the principles do apply. Let's not
absolutely
look at how he delivers the message, because that might be obviously above a high school kid or above a youth kid. Like, that might be much for them to handle. But as far as the message of what he's trying to say, like, you're accountable. You need to be at your best. You can't be missing things. You have to compete every time you're on the floor. Every time you decide not to show up or not to compete is something that puts us in a negative direction. You're being selfish at that point. But those are the messages that, not how he delivers it where college kids can understand it. Like, he's hard on them. But like, if you were delivering it to a youth, they would say you were insane. If you did it at high school, they'd probably say you're insane. But the message is correct. The message is correct. Like, if you don't do these things, I don't care how old you are, okay? If you don't do these things, it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 18 or 8 or 88. If you don't do these things, every time you don't do this, the thing that you're supposed to do, there is a consequence. Whether you like it or not, there is a consequence. And you may not like it. I get it. I understand it. But there's a consequence. And people, the faster people learn that, especially as, athletes more apparently than them, you can have fun all you want, right? Like, I always say, like, if you miss something, okay, and the coach says it's okay to miss it, like, if I can't make it, I have two things going on at one time, you have to explain to your kid, okay, because this is going to happen in youth sports. It's going to happen even in high school sometimes. The job of the parent is to explain to the kid that, like, hey, when we miss this, there is a chance when we go back that coach may not play you because of that. It does not mean it. Now, there's a chance he will. It won't matter to him. That's okay too. But there's a chance. Like, so if something happens here, you have to understand that is a potential consequence. There may be no consequence, but you have to understand what that means. Could be when you do miss. Now, in most cases, there isn't a consequence, right?
Correct.
Okay, but sometimes I say, well, what if that's the day that coach puts in something for you?
Right, and you're not there.
You're not there. Now, you may not lose your starting job, right? But that play that was run for you is no longer going to be run for you. So that's kind of out the window. Run for somebody else. It's run for this guy over here. And you weren't there, so that's just kind of a consequence, right?
Look, it's like what Nick Saban says, right? He's like, look, if you really want to be great, like, you don't have many choices.
Right.
That's what it is.
And it's very hard. Like, people can't understand that straight way you just presented that. Like, people, they're
like, wait, what do you mean? Like, no, he can do this and this, or he can do this and that, and they can do this. And it's like, all right, like, you can, but you're not going to end up where you want to be.
Right. And you can make that conscious decision. You might say, hey, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Right.
That's cool too. You're okay with that. No problem. But it's important to know that. It's important to know what could happen or what a consequence is. And you might be okay with that. That's great. Like, if you become self-aware of what happens if you do or don't do something is very important, because then you don't get mad at the coach for no reason. You don't get mad at yourself for no reason. You know you made a decision, okay? And a conscious decision, and that's okay. And
absolutely,
I use because it happens at youth sports, and it probably happens at high school a decent amount, where two things are happening at once, and you have to make a choice.
Got to make a choice. You got to make a call.
Right.
That's life.
Like AAU basketball game or the track meet on Saturday, right? That's a good example.
Mandatory football workout or a club sport thing that, like, you're whatever. Or look, football practice or second cousin's wedding.
Correct. Now, let's say you choose the thing that we all as coaches want you to choose. You chose football practice. Coach is super happy.
Still doesn't mean you're going to be the guy.
Consequence, though. The consequence is your cousin.
Probably going to be pissed.
Might be pissed at you for a very, very, very long time. So there is both sides of the consequence. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So there's two sides of the consequences. You have to just kind of be able to live with one side of the consequence and be okay with that and know what you got to do from that point forward.
Well, if my cousin's pissed at me, then I don't have to go to his daughter's communion next year. We're good. Let's go. Like, I said, well, if your cousin's pissed at you, now I don't have to go to his daughter's communion next year. Saves me $100 and a trip. Like, we're good. Like, or, oh shit. Well, now my family's like, all right, but okay, I'm going to go to that. But now I'm like, my 3-year window opportunity to play football, like, I'm going to miss that. And now I miss out on a game because I'm suspended and I can't play because I made that choice. So what do you value? That's life. Hard decisions, dude. Got to make a choice, roll with it and go. And as long as you're good with it, you're good. That's why football and sports teach you that shit. Like, it's going to be tough, dude. Like, you're going to have to make sacrifices and consequences. Like, that shit's going to happen. Part of it. And look, nothing is guaranteed either. So even if you make that choice, go to practice, dude, it might not mean shit. Like, 100%. Like,
you might have been better off going to his wedding. So, yeah. I mean, those are. I think those are real things, and that's. I think athletes, for the most part, will understand it as it's explained. Parents don't always understand that.
Nope.
Like, but it was his birthday. The birthday party.
What do you?
Every mom with a birthday. I understand they're moms. I understand that, but like, no, like.
What do you mean you're practicing? They don't have school. But he needed a haircut before the first day. Like,
his birthday, this is his birthday.
Right. Well, his grandma made him a cake.
And I'm like, nobody's saying you can't go to your birthday. We're just saying
you're like, I would actually like a piece of it, but like, he's got to be at practice first. Like,
if you can show up for practice and you know what, you need to leave a half hour.
But then here's the other thing too. Like, then some of that responsibility falls back on the parent. Like,
right.
Well, I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. to drive him to the weight room because he has a workout. I'm not getting up on Saturday morning to bring him to practice after a game because I was out that night and I had a good time. So I don't want to wake up to bring my kid there. Like, it's tough, dude.
I lived a little bit of that stuff when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Because I had divorced parents, and my mom eventually learned that. But at first, it was a rebellion against my dad.
Right. Like, hey, I'm going to do this because I know it's going to piss him off.
I ain't bringing you. Want to go walk.
Right.
Like, whoa.
Like, all right, I guess I'm walking.
I guess I'm walking. Oh, I would be like, I mean, Derek, when I think back to some of those things, like I was like, we were like, well, what does it take to play? I'm like, listen, like I'm not. I was, I had certain gifts, just like you did. Like I had gifts. God blessed me with a certain amount of speed. Those things were obviously great to have. Speed for my size, I should say, and that obviously gives you a certain advantage. But like, listen, if my mom said she wasn't gonna bring me, I sprinted. I sprinted to the school. I lived 2 miles away, so a mile and a half away. I would just run to school, and I'd show up to practice exhausted. That's just how it was. Or I have to, I'd have to try to get a friend to bring me, or try to
wait for one of the girls to go flying by, hit the brakes, reverse, pick you up.
That was just getting to school.
You're like, thank God.
That was getting to school. Thank God I was good looking, even as a freshman. Because if I was dog shit ugly, ain't nobody was picking me up. So you know how high school girls are. Even if they're not,
they don't give a shit.
Even if they're not going to date you, they don't mind bringing you with them because they're like, you're coming in making somebody jealous. So
100%.
Yes, the guy they really want to date.
We were just pawns.
Like, I was used as a pawn.
I'm like, wait, you're coming over. Wait, you're like, wait a minute, like. You're dating the quarterback who's supposed to throw me the ball as many times as I could like get it, and like you want to hang out? Sure, let's hang out.
Dumb decisions.
I'm like, shit, bro. Like I'm not gonna catch anything this week.
You're getting 1 ball versus 10.
Yeah. And it's gonna be a fastball as fast as it can right at my throat. Like, okay.
Oh my goodness. That was, oh man. There's no. I remember before my senior year, and partially one of the reasons why we weren't that good, the guy who was my quarterback, I was a junior, he was a great athlete. Like, he was being recruited for football, too. He decided not to play football senior year.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good.
He was 6'2", like 210 pounds. And decided...
Dude, we had one of the best, like, overall athletes. Dude, one of the best overall athletes to ever come through, like, my high school. I mean, he saw time as a quarterback as a freshman. Then he like moved to wideout, and then he was like a quarterback. I mean, dude, like freak of nature, right? Like all of a sudden, like his like junior year, he becomes like a full blown like shitbird, like gets thrown off the team, whatever. Then senior year, it's like, yo, is so and so playing? And it's like, nah, he's in like juvie. Like what? It's like this kid was like the greatest thing we ever had, like all around. Like just and then like. Hey, you can if you do this, and this, like you can play again. Yeah, I'm good. All right. Okay.
I know. I would talk to him. I'd be like, dude, why don't you just
I'd be like, come on, bro. Like we can do that. No.
Dude, he was my friend. Like we were buddies. Like he's like, I don't like I don't remember what it was, I mean, I got the ball a lot. He probably wanted to throw more. And the guy he threw passes to was me anyway. Like I was his leading receiver, even though I was the running back. I had like 30 catches my junior year. He would throw it to me. Like he'd throw me bombs on wheel routes and stuff.
Right.
And so I don't know what he was upset about. Like I was your number one receiver.
You're like, buddy, I'm gonna catch it and make you look good. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, So instead, he probably helped get me my scholarship. We weren't very good, but I carried the ball 9,000 times. Because they didn't really know what to do.
So, like, what else do? We used to have, like, an option that if we are going to throw, we'll be okay. But now that guy's gone. I always thought that was funny, dude. It was like, it's just like, you're always like, there was always that one cat that you were, like, expected to be like, yo, this kid's going to help us so much or whatever. Then something crazy happens. You're like, yeah, he's not even playing. You're like, what the fuck?
That's definitely, like, a small town thing, too.
100%, dude. 100%.
Like, you're like, how could this kid become a shitbird?
Yeah, you're like, dude, we don't even have any other options, dude. Like, look, there's nothing else to do. Like, what do we do?
You can't be a shit. You can't just hang out and smoke weed this year. We need you to, like, wait a minute. Like,
dude, can't you just, like, stop for 3 months? Like,
you can smoke weed next year, okay?
Like, dude, you don't even have to lift. Like, they don't even care that if you go to the weight room. Like, just show up for practice, and that's it. Like, and you might not even have to show up every day for that. Just show up, like, twice a week, and you'll still be good to go. Like,
my lifting partner, too. Like, in the school, like, when we do like me and him were. Saddlebrook used to have this cool thing. I don't know if you guys had the 300-pound club.
Oh yeah, of course, bro.
So we had a list of all the people that benched 300. I think I was 330. The quarterback did 300. Okay, so
didn't want to play.
Yeah, dude, he benched 300. We lifted together. We did the bench. Like, I mean, obviously, our whole thing used to be like we were getting jacked. Like he was a big dude, and that was our whole thing. Like we would get jacked, you know. Like, I'm telling you, when people told me that he wasn't going to play, I'm like, is he going to tell me? Like,
right. No, because he's like, hey, I want to let you know, like, I ain't playing.
Oh yeah, I'm not playing for that guy anymore.
Right. Like he don't even throw me the ball. You're like, buddy, you're throwing it.
I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, oh my God. And by the way, you know, I was Group 1. That's not just one side of the ball.
No,
that was our outside linebacker. So
there was the same thing. We had a kid that didn't play, like going into our sophomore year, right? And he was like the other quarterback, and like, you know, hey, you're going to be the quarterback. And I'm like, no, this guy's the quarterback, right? They're like, oh, he's not playing. I'm like, dude, you got to play. And he's like, I'm not playing. Didn't play sophomore year. I'm like, fuck, dude, now I got to play quarterback. Like, this sucks, dude. Like, selfishly, I'm like, please come to play quarterback. He came back out senior year, ended up like being the opposite slot receiver of me. We returned kicks together, right? Like, he took 2 kicks back against Glen Rock, like senior year. So it all kind of worked out. And neither of us ended up being the quarterback, which just made us better on a whole different level. But like, dude, when he didn't play as a sophomore, I was like, buddy, fuck. And then junior year, it was like, hey, I'm not going to play senior year, because when he came back, he was like a receiver and a running back, and they bounced him all around, and he didn't really play defense. Like, so he's like, fuck it, I'm not even going to play. All they do is fuck with you. I'm like, dude, you got to play, right? He ends up being a 2-way starter senior year, like stud, like, thank God, right? Because it's like, whew. But dude, those stories, it's small town.
It's so group, definitely Jersey Group 1. I'm sure every place has similar kind of things, but I remember like that was a North Jersey small school. I bet you if you went down Wood Park, you would hear something like that. I bet you if you went to like even the good programs like yours, or even Glen Rock, like I'm sure there are all kinds of these stories at these Group 1 schools back in the day. But it was so
because you know, like just even that little piece of just like another body not playing screws you. You're like, fuck, now we don't have a scout team.
Well, it's funny because my first year of coaching, now I didn't know because I wasn't there the year before, but the kid who ended up playing nose guard for us, he was great. He played the stand-up nose. It was the only like that's why now, like when someone says they can't get into his stances nose, I'm like, oh no, you play. I'm like, if you can't really get into a stance and are comfortable moving, I say you play stand-up nose, and you play like you're in a wrestling position, like you're about to start a wrestling match, and that's how you play it, right? And because I learned it from him, because he really couldn't, like, I don't know if he didn't like to get in the stand, but he played this stand-up nose, dude, and he was unbelievable. But I guess apparently didn't play football the year before. I wasn't there yet, and didn't play football. And they were like, when he decided to come out, it was huge because he was so good as a nose. Like, he was so quick with his hands and feet. Like, it was crazy. Like he would, he'd always yeah. They didn't even play him on offense because he refused to like get in the stand. Okay,
like I ain't fucking doing that. You're like, what do you mean, dude?
He was like, I'm a fullback. Well, we had a fullback that was literally scored like 15 touchdowns.
Always gonna have that guy, bro.
But he was, dude. He just played nose, and he was a killer, like a stone cold killer.
That shit's just so funny though, because everybody has that story, dude.
He should have been a guard too, but no, I didn't know. He just played.
You're like, no, I'm not doing that.
No. He was just. And by the way, the team only had 30 kids on the team, so
that's what I'm saying. Like every piece of the puzzle matters, dude.
30 kids, 9 through 12. So
right, yes, that's like everybody we're talking here.
That was everybody, right? And it was funny, but he was so good. Like the fact that he came out, like he was one of like the guys that made the season. There was another kid that came out that hadn't played the year before that made the season. It was like, the next year that was like, it's amazing because it's Saddleback, and the same thing as like that's, you couldn't do that at the big schools down here. Like you can't just come out and all of a sudden take somebody's job unless you really are a freak.
Right.
Because there are other kids that have been working. But like at small group 1 schools,
you get it done.
Oh yeah, there's a kid that took off a whole, kid takes off a whole year, comes back, he's the starter,
He's the guy.
Only in group 1 could you do that. But
100%.
Anyway.
So funny.
Yeah, it is funny. It is. People don't really understand
No
that
clue.
world. No, it's a funny. And you're small town. There, unless some kids don't like you for some reason, you're basically friends with almost all.
Yeah, you know everybody.
You know everybody. You know everyone. There's not one person that you don't know. You might walk the hallways and a freshman might walk by you and you might not know their name per se because you just they're
but
young.
You've seen them before.
Well, you've seen them exactly. You've seen every single person, and it's wild. Because that's how it is, dude. I mean, that to me that's like when I look at towns like Manasquan, I'm like, oh, that's the beauty, or Shore. That is the beauty of those towns is that they probably all know each other, right? They all know each other. They all grow up with each other. Those towns are really kind of small.
It's not much of that has changed.
Yeah, I think that part is cool, which is like going to a big, being in a big town, just like you're in a big town. Like that to me, like.
Oh yeah, it takes an adjust. It takes a little bit of time to adjust.
It does, but anyway, let you run. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
See you in the morning.
What's the name? Who we got tomorrow?
10:30. It's his name's TJ Cronky. He's the he was hired last year. Yeah, I guarantee you if you do some research, you'll know exactly who he is because and he's the newly hired girls flag coach at Caldwell College. Believe he's a Bergen County guy.
He coach at Ridgefield?
Maybe.
No.
I'm telling you, I think he might be a Ridgefield Park guy.
Well, Ridgefield Park. He was the head coach of Ridgefield Park. Used to be.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I believe he coached on staff with the boys for Caldwell College this year and then got the girls flag full-time job as the head guy. So be interesting to talk to him about college level girls flag.
Oh yeah. And that's a full-time gig?
Full-time gig, buddy. I know. Dude, don't even it's hard. It's spinning. I'm like, what? I'm like, can we
That's a pretty good gig.
I'm like, can I get site management stuff?
Recruiting coordinator.
Right. What do we need? So, all right.
All right.
I'll see you in the morning. Later.
You got it.